to Intermediate Java. This is lesson 5. I'm Aki, and today we're going to be learning about 2D arrays. So before we get to that, we're going to do some quick review. So why do we generate random numbers when we're scrambling arrays? And the second question, how does bubble sort function? This is all stuff we learned about last week. So I'll let you pause and give you a moment to think about it. Okay, so to generate random numbers when we're scrambling arrays, we do that to determine the new index of the element. So if we're scrambling something up, we need to know what random location we're going to send the element to. And bubble sort, the way it functions is that we look at an element starting at the first one, and if it's larger than the element on the right or at the index plus 1, we're going to swap the two using the swapping methods we learned last time, and then we're going to look to the next element. And if that one is larger, we'll swap it. But if it's not, we'll just leave it and move to the next element anyways. So eventually, with large elements floating up like bubbles, that's actually why it's called bubble sort, is that the elements will float upwards. We'll eventually have a sorted list with the smallest elements toward the left and the largest elements towards the right. Okay, so now, today we're going to be learning about 2D arrays. So a 2D array is an array of arrays. Here in this example, this little diagram that's drawn up, we have this main outer array, and then at each index, instead of a string or int or normal variable that we've been working with so far, we have a whole nother array. So that creates this sort of 2D grid pattern like a chessboard. And then the way we format or access each element of this array is we have a row system and a column system. So the rows is the horizontal. We have row 1, 2, and 3. Of course, it's indexed at 0. That's this first number here on the left. So 0, 1, 2. Then we have columns, which is this second number on the right. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, because there's 4 total columns. So the basic format is going to be A, or whatever your 2D array is named, and then row, column. Remember, row first and column second. You can refer back to this part of the video if you ever forget. Okay, so now that we know the basic structure of a 2D array, we want two ways to make and fill up a 2D array. Now, the actual initialization is the same, but the way we're going to be populating it with elements is different. So first we have the nested loop one, where we have one loop for the rows and one loop for the columns, and then manually doing it when you initialize. So our nested loop method, we're going to have our 2D array with 4 rows and 5 columns. Remember, row first, column second. We're going to have our value int as 1, and then we're going to have our nested loop. This outer loop goes through from one column to the next, and the inner loop goes from the first row to the second row, and then third, and so on. And you might notice here we have array.length. That's the length of this outer array, here this red one. And then the second one, array 0.length. That's because it's the length of the array inside the first index of the outer array. So array 0.length would be the length of this array, because it's in the 0th index of the outer array. So hopefully that makes sense. And then once we're at each location, we would just do array ij, which is our indexes, equals value, and then we increment the value, and then just continue the loop. So that's the first way. That's good if you literally just want to count up, but that's going to create one specific type of 2D array, right? You're just going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you want something different, or like a specific order of numbers, you can manually input it. Obviously, this would take a long time because you're just manually typing it, especially as it gets larger. But here, you would just structure it with the outside brackets. You can see there's one bracket here and one bracket here. That's the outer array. And then this inner array, we have here, and then we have every other one. So this you could do on one line. It's just structured this way to make it more readable to you guys. Now, we're going to be moving on to printing 2D arrays. So to print a 2D array is pretty similar to the first construction method we talked about last time, where we do a nested loop, one to move through the rows and one to move through the columns. And then instead of just adding the value and then updating it, we're just going to print out what's at the current position. An important thing to note here is inside the loop, we're going to be doing print, not println, because what println does is it kicks you to a new line every time you type something. So if we do print without the ln, we'll have all the numbers in a row. So we could have like 1, and then 4, 5, 3, and then once we're past a row, we're going to do system.out.println, and that's going to kick us to a new row, and then we're going to type all the rest of the letters in a line, and then continue until we have that nice grid pattern. Okay, so now that we know how to create and print 2D arrays, we're going to do an activity where we create a 4x4 2D array of ints, and then we're going to search through it for the number 9. You're going to print out the 2D array, and then you're going to count however many instances there are of the number 9, or whatever number you choose, and then you're going to print that out. So you can pause, and then we'll go over the answer. Okay, so hopefully you were able to get something working. Your solution might look a little something like this. So here we initialized the 4x4 array. We decided to go with a manual method because then we can control exactly how many 9s are present. And then we set our int count to 0. So far we've counted 0 9s. And then we do our next nested loop. And then every time we get to an element, then we're going to print it out, and then we are going to add it to the counter if it's the number 9. So we can do these at both at the same time. So then once we get through the full thing, we're going to print out the number of times 9 appears is, and then print out count. So if you have that down, then you're going to create, you're going to take the 2D array you just made, and then you're going to scramble it up. So you're going to create a temporary variable for every one you want to move, and then move it, and then move the temporary variable into the old position. So once you've done that a couple of times, let's say 6, then you're going to add all the values together and print out the sum along with the newly scrambled 2D array. So you should be able to tell the difference between the first and second array. You might actually notice that the sum should be the same since we're not actually adding or subtracting any of the elements. We're just mixing up the positions. And then yeah, so it should be the first, same either way, but when you print out the 2D array, they should look fully different because they're all scrambled up. So once you've completed that, we'll do some review. So first, what is the structure of a 2D array? And second, how would you print out a certain element of a 2D array? So the structure of a 2D array is an array of arrays, which creates that 2D grid pattern, and then it prints out to print out certain elements of a 2D array, we're going to use a nested loop and then go through the rows and columns until we get to the element we want to print out. So yeah, that's the end of our lesson. If you have any questions, you can come to our office hours. This is the information. You can also ask your parents. It should be in the recap emails they receive after every normal lesson. Yeah, and then you should be able to get it through there. So yeah, thanks for watching.